Hello everybody and welcome to Retro Racing for the very first race in the very first championship here. As you can see, the championship will consist of 8 races which will be coming to you over the next 8 weeks solid, and the drivers will be competing in classic retro Formula 1 cars from the 80s with classic V12 engines. So let's have a little look now at race 1. The Autopolis International Racing Course is the first track of the season. Track length is just under 3 miles long and the longest straight just over half a mile long. So yeah, expect plenty of overtakes on the way down into turn 1. So let's have a look at qualifying. AFC Guna, the sole Silver Arrow, takes pole position. Mitch in the McLaren takes P2. Steve F1 in the Benetton takes P3. P4 is Diesel in a Lotus, and Lex took P5 in a McLaren. Mandalorian, also in a Lotus, took P6, and GBM Allman is the first of the Ferraris in P7. Gary in one of the Tyrrells took P8 as Dave the Hart took P9, and Rich Blues rounds out the back in the second Benetton there for P10. Few drivers away today, but let's get ready for the action. So here we go then, the tension is building. And for the very first race of Retro Racing, Mitch in P2, AFC Guna on P1. The lights are out and off they go. Mitch gets a brilliant start there in the McLaren on the run down towards turn 1. AFC Guna trying to cover off Steve F1 in the mirrors as the head under braking. Mitch carrying a lot of speed there, managing to take the lead of the race. Steve F1 also managing to try it round the outside of AFC Guna. AFC Guna really, he's got his mirrors full with Diesel as well, but Steve F1, can he try and get P2 off AFC Guna here in these opening stages? Very, very close wheel-to-wheel action, and AFC Guna just pulls it off. He just manages to get in front there, Justin. Oh, it's just a fucking great. The racing giant just fucking great. He got himself back in front, and he's put himself under pressure now. But he's got Steve F1 right behind him, and he's got to try and pull away, because he's got to try and put the pressure back on Mitch, because Mitch just absolutely blitzed him off the line there, Giants. But Altman there is the lead Ferrari, and he's got Dider Hop right up behind him there, the car number 6, and he's currently in 6th position, so that's quite an omen there for Dider. Oh, caught off, Jan, caught off! Oh, unfortunately, it's one of the Tyrrells, and that just means it's definitely Gary. So yeah, Gary's had a bit of a poor start there, but let's have a little look. Was this an error of his own? He's run onto the grass, coming back on the circuit, but just clearly just not lifted off the throttle there, Justin. Fucking yeah, I talked to Gary earlier, and he said, you know, I'm really looking for a strong racing today as the South Tyrrell on the circuit, but that's just absolutely fucked it up there. Well and truly for not only for him, but the entire team. They will be absolutely farming. But right now we're looking at the 2 Ferraris running now down the start finish tonight, and they're currently in P5 and 6 is there, as we're now looking at the Silverado of AFC Guna running wide there, almost onto the grass, as he's trying his best to try and hunt down Mitch in the McLaren in P1. Yes, indeed. So can the number 53 car of AFC Guna really hunt Mitch down and try and force an error here? He's definitely close enough, but Mitch, he's definitely a tough customer there. Mitch almost runs onto the grass himself there, trying to get the power on early and trying to pull that gap. But we're currently looking at Diesel there, sat in 4th place, trying to hunt down Steve F1 in 3rd place, headed up towards the hairpin. And there we go, we can see on the screen that Diesel has just got himself a purple sector, and I'm pretty sure that most people on this second lap will be getting purple sectors compared to the previous lap time. But yeah, Mitch really pushing hard, and there is GBM Allman sat in 5th place, the front running Ferrari, pulling away now from his teammate Dave Hart. There he is running over the grass there. That will not be doing his tyres any good there. Fucking hell, Jen, that's just going to give more rubbish on your tyres and more chance of a puncture, and that's just not what you want. You want the tyre to be as clean as possible. And there we can see Steve F1, yeah, it's just not got the pace of the front to AFC Guna. Clearly you can see there in P2, really got a lot of pace here there, Jam. Indeed, Justin. But yeah, the drivers right now will be thinking long and hard about which tyre to go for on the next stint and how to treat these tyres right now. Do you drag them to bits, And do you push like Mandalorian's here doing on Dave Harp down towards turn 1, or do you go conservative and do you start looking after him there, as that's how Mandalorian got past Dave Harp for P6. Yeah, Mandalorian's just moved up to P6 now, but yeah, you can see AFC Gooner pushing very, very hard, maybe pushing too hard, getting his tyres full of mud, and that is not going to do himself any good now, as we're now on board with Diesel running up to the hairpin. I think AFC Gooner's run off the circuit there, and that just shows you how much grip you've got when you've got mud on your tyres. And yeah, there's Mandalorian in P6, AFC Gooner just come back on the circuit right in front of him there. Fucking hell, let's have a look at this jump. So yeah, under braking, he just got no brakes and just ran completely off the circuit there and got no grip. So it's going to take a little bit of a while for AFC Gunner to get them tyres back up to temperature and get all the crap off them, because yeah, he definitely lost a lot of pace there, running in P2, now down to P5. So that's not a great going there for AFC Gunner. That's just absolute shite there. Indeed, so we've got to start thinking now about pit stops. Mitch will be thinking, how far can I take these tyres? Just starting lap 4, and we usually, if you're running a set of super soft tyres, you're looking at about 5 laps, and I'm pretty sure that Steve F1 running in P2 in the Benetton is running the super soft tyres, so it could be possible that Steve F1 might be wanting to get as close as he can to Mitch and then pit at the end of the next lap. So let's just have a little look now as we're on board with Steve F1, and yeah, Mitch had an absolutely blistering start, has been leading from lap 1, but Steve F1, can he put the pressure on? So yeah, apparently you were telling me, Justin, that there's been a bit of a story brewing in the pit lane. Ah, fucking hell, yeah. I was speaking to Flavio Brigatore. He's putting a cheeky little bet on Steve F1. He put $20,000 down to see if he could win this race, and he said also, Steve F1 doesn't win the race, he's going to chop his balls off and stick them up his arse. No way. There's no way on earth that Flavio Brigatore, the team principal of the Benetton team, would have said that he'll chop Steve F1's balls off if he doesn't win and stick them up his arse. No, you're not quite getting it, James. What he's going to do, he's going to chop Steve's balls off, he's going to take them, and then Flavio is going to have them in his hands and stick them up his own arse. I don't know why, James. Flav's a fucking sick fuck, James. Right, well, anyway, back to the racing. AFC Gooner has really caught up on the back of GBM Oldman in P4 in the front-running Ferrari. Yeah, so here we go. A classic little bit of battling here. The Silver Arrow versus the Ferrari is further up there. We've got Diesel currently running in P3, really close. But yeah, AFC Gooner under braking towards turn 1. Is he going to be able to hold this, or is Oldman going to carry the speed round the outside? I think Oldman might just have it, but AFC Gooner on the run down towards turn 2 here, Justin. Could he manage to hold this? Fucking hell, Gooner's going to have to be a bit more aggressive than that if he wants to find his way through past the prancing horse. But now we're going to have a little look a bit further up, and there's Diesel in P3, and yeah, he's been making sure that he's got the pace this weekend. But AFC Gooner really harassing the back of that Ferrari, when let's hope it doesn't kick like a mule, because if it does, it's going to kick right in Gooner's face. But as running up towards the hairpin, AFC Gooner knows that he went off there at that very corner just one lap ago, and he's got to try and regain his composure and really put the pressure on Oldman. And if he doesn't get his move made pretty soon, then he's going to have Mandalorian and P6 hunting him down. So he really needs to find a way through here, Jam. Yeah, so right now AFC Gooner is trying to make a move in the final sector, but we're hearing from the pit lane with Mr. G that we've got activity down there. So what's going on, Mr. G?
Oh, thanks, James. Yes, it's an absolute hive of activity here in the pit lane. The guys are getting ready down at Benetton, and Flavio Brigatori's told me that Steve F1's heading into the pit lane at the end of this lap. So this is going to be a lot of pressure on these guys with the high-powered guns, making sure that Steve F1's nuts are tight.
Fucking hell, so they're really pushing hard there. You can tell there was a very slick pit stop there, James. He's heading out of the pit lane right now, Steve F1, and the gap to Mitch from himself is around 20 seconds, so he's got to try and bring that gap down. Before he pitted, he was about half a second behind Mitch, so if he can try and pull up at about half a second, then GBM Oldman running wide there, AFC Gooner going for an opportunistic move there in the Silverado. Absolutely brilliant there. AFC Guna up to P3 now, Jam. Yeah, that move came absolutely out of nowhere. Albon made a slight mistake, and AFC Guna absolutely made sure that Albon paid for it, and I'm pretty sure the guys down at Ferrari will not have appreciated that. A Silver Arrow just blitzing past the Ferrari as we're now looking at Mitch and Diesel there in P2 a little bit further back, but Mitch will be pushing very, very hard to try and keep in front of Steve F1, who we can see right now who's performing the undercut. Steve F1 will be pushing very hard, knowing that his nuts are pretty much on the line, as GBM Albon now trying to re-attack here. Justin. Fucking hell, he's all over the back of him. AFC Guna all out of shape there. And but yeah, as we've said, this is a very tricky section of the racetrack right at the end of the lap. And Albon, I don't know what he's going to be planning on doing. He's got, I think, his Mandalorian in P5 hunting him down. And Mitch carrying on for another lap. Diesel's really trying to cover off that move from Steve F1. I'm really surprised that Mitch has stayed out, because that's just going to promote, it's going to be a slam dunk, because we're now having a look at the Ferrari of GBM Albon going for the move back on AFC Guna in the Silverado, and I think he's made the move there. Yeah, he's definitely completed the move, but yeah, I just cannot believe that Mitch did not go and covered off that move from Steve F1. Yeah, Justin, just have a little look at that gap now between Steve F1 and Diesel. I'm pretty sure that if Mitch had covered that move off from Steve F1, he would not have made it, as we're still absolutely nose to tail here with AFC Guna. Steve F1 really pressuring these guys, and AFC Guna's feeling the heat as once again he runs onto the grass. These two are really in a battle that is not really concerning Steve F1, but Steve F1 does not want to be losing any time. And there we go, he's looking for a move up the inside of AFC Guna, holding the apex, and that's absolutely brilliant driving there from Steve F1 on fresh tyres. Fucking hell, John, like a knife through butter. And there he's all over the back of the Ferrari of GBM Albon. But yeah, as we've said time and time again, this final sector, very, very difficult to find the way through past any car, let alone the back end of Ferrari. And there it's getting difficult for me to talk, because I have a tough time saying Ferrari. But here we go, there is Mitch Kenny. Is he going to be pitting at the end of this lap, or is he going to be stretching it out as Steve F1 once again trying to make a move there around the final corner on GBM Albon. GBM Albon a little bit out of shape, and Mitch is into the pits now. Up to you, Mr. G. Ron Dennis is absolutely glaring at the guys, making sure that there's no mistakes here. But sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off, Mr. G, because we've got a four-way battle down towards turn 1. GBM Albon leads the race in the Ferrari. Steve F1 in P2 on fresher tyres, fighting his way through, and Diesel's got a really good exit out of turn 1 on AFC Guna, and Steve F1 has made his way through into the lead of the race. Now Diesel is attacking the back of GBM Albon in the Ferrari. I think it's only a matter of time before these guys with old tyres will be absolutely crying and begging the teams to get themselves into the pit lane here, Justin. Oh, it's like candy for a baby, Jam. It's just too easy for these guys on fresh rubber. And yeah, you can see there Diesel really taking a tight line. He's took it so tight that he's able to carry a lot more speed up towards the hairpin. GBM Albon trying to cover it off, but I think it's only a matter of time before he makes his way through. Yeah, GBM Albon around out of the grip there, and yeah, that's Diesel up to P2. But you know, GBM Albon will give it everything, but once the grip's gone, there's nothing you can quite do. And there you can see Legs in the second McLaren, and yeah, there's Mitch in P5 making his way through straight away there, taking no prisoners on AFC Guna. And the next car for him to overtake will be the Ferrari. I'm pretty sure Ron Dennis will be loving this, a McLaren versus a Ferrari. And yeah, that's just too easy. Oh, I think Albon just shoved their Mitch onto the grass, but he's backed out of it to let Mitch through. So a little bit of contact there, may be investigated by the stewards, but there was absolutely hard riveting there for Mitch. But look at the gap. Now we've got Diesel having a little look here on Steve F1, James. Yeah, he's forced Steve F1 there to go defensive in towards turn 1, which will compromise his run up towards turn 2. Steve F1, is he going to have to go defensive here on the run towards turn 2? No, it keeps on the racing line to carry as much speed as he can to try and fend off Diesel. But the one that we should all be looking out for right now is Mitch. Even though he's a few seconds back and not in shot, he's definitely hunting these two down, as Diesel's getting very close to the back of that Benetton. and I'm pretty sure that the guys down in the Lotus garage will be absolutely egging him on to try and get himself in front of the Benetton of Steve F1 as they're now heading up towards the hairpin. And this seems to be one of the best overtaking spots apart from turn 1. And it's all about making sure that you get the speed absolutely bob on so you can get a decent run out of the corner. But Steve F1 has managed to do that there, Justin. Fucking hell, the pressure that Steve F1's under. I don't know, but well, we're having a look at the replay here. This was GBM Altman and AFC Guna heading into the pit lane on board now. The AFC Guna, I think there's been an incident at the start of the pit lane. Maybe we can get a word there from Mr. G. Oh my god, guys, I cannot believe we just had a Ferrari and a Mercedes-Benz block the pit lane entry. Let's hope that the marshals are able to get them guys out of the way so that people can pit. But I think I'm going to have to hand back to you because it's very close, guys. Thanks, Justin. Yes, it is very, very close. Diesel is in the slipstream of Steve F1 going for the move. He's going to the inside now. Very, very late jink out. And yeah, Steve F1 carrying the speed though around the outside, and that's just forced Diesel there to slam on the anchors, and this is bringing Mitch into the battle here, Justin. Fucking hell, what are these guys doing? If they don't stop tripping over each other and making life difficult for each other, Mitch is going to just turn up and absolutely mince them both. But yeah, we've got Diesel is trying to put pressure on Steve F1, but if he doesn't watch out, he's going to be absolutely chewed up and spat out by Mitch in P3. And yeah, there you can see Diesel pushing hard and running onto the grass side by side now, running through the very long left-hander there, Jem. Yeah, Diesel just had enough grip there to keep in front of Mitch as they ran through the corner, and now they're heading back up towards the hairpin as Diesel's trying to put Steve F1 off in the mirrors, but I do not think that is going to be working anytime soon. The best opportunity for these guys to try and overtake Steve F1 probably is in towards turn 1 after the final sector that they're running through now, where this is really an absolute tyre killer, absolutely off-camber corners where the tyres just slide across the surface. And yeah, if Steve F1 was the first to pit out of this group of guys, and if anything he's becoming a little bit of a cork in the bottle, I'm pretty sure Flavio is going to be absolutely foaming that his car right now is so slow. Fucking hell, there's about 24 minutes to go, but yeah, we've got Diesel now up the inside. He's made the move there on Steve F1. Steve F1 just did not have the grip, and he's heading back into the pit lane here. Up to you, Mr. G. Oh my god, guys. The guys down in the Benetton team are absolutely furious. Them set of tyres just did not last as long as they thought they were gonna, but they're gonna have to get themselves up and out of the pit lane, and they're gonna feed out in position 4. Thanks very much, Mr. G. So now Mitch is becoming the hunter as he's trying to hunt down Diesel. Diesel was the hunter on the previous lap, but now he is the hunted. So the pressure now falls to the Lotus team. They're going to be thinking about an early pit stop as well, and they're going to try and stretch this out as Mitch, just look at that grip that he's got there. Diesel covers him off as they're running through the very fast left-hander as they're running now up towards the hairpin, and Diesel goes defensive very, very early indeed here. Ah, fucking hell, can Mitch drive around the outside? I don't know if he can make the move now. Now Diesel just had enough grip there to keep himself in P1, but Mitch there, just a little bit of a sign there to say to Diesel, hey, hurry up you slow coach. So in the pit lane, could we get a little bit of a sign now from Mr. G? Is there any activity in the Lotus garage? So yeah, I've just had a word with the guys down at the Lotus. They've just told me they're going to see if Mitch can put pressure on. I'm seeing something up here on the timer screen. Mitch in P2 has had a little bit of an off, and that's let Diesel in P1 off the leash there. So yeah, Diesel's carrying on. He's not pitting, but we could see Mitch now. Yes, the guys down at McLaren are rushing to their tools and getting them tyres ready for Mitch. Fucking hell, the strategy gone completely tits up there for Mitch, and he's now having to change off the soft tyres, and I think he's putting on a new set of soft tyres, but that's going to put him out of sequence now. But yeah, right now I'm pretty sure the guys down at Lotus would like the end of the race to happen right now, because we've both got Diesel and Mandalorian both the Lotus teammates in P1 and 2, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be absolutely refused that and said, no, we've turned up, we've got another 22 laps worth of racing, and now we've got AFC Guna all over the back of Mitch, but I'm pretty sure Mitch just trying to, oh my god, that was so close. Mitch is trying to get his tyres up the temperature now, and I'm pretty sure once he does, it'll be off like a rocket, James. Yeah, he is absolutely on fire today, is Mitch, but as we've seen, he burnt himself out on the previous lap, and that's cost him big time. There's his teammate Lex in the number 9 McLaren, and yeah, he's hunting down GBM Oldman in the Ferrari. For P6. So yeah, the guys up in the front, I do not know what strategy they're going to be doing. Diesel has got an extra lap now on his tyres, but Steve F1 is probably about another 6-7 seconds behind with Mandalorian. He's just got in front of Mandalorian, so hopefully we're going to see a replay. Yeah, we do. There we go. So there is Steve. That's how Steve F1 made his way in front of Mandalorian as Diesel now enters the pit lane. There you can see Diesel's pit crew very, very cool and calm under pressure, getting the tyres screwed on, and away he goes. Thanks, Justin. And yes, Mandalorian, his teammate, follows him in, but there we can see Steve F1 in P1 and Diesel come out of the pit lane in P2. Mitch has lost out heavily during that unforced error on the previous lap, and here we have GBM Oldman trying to fight Mandalorian, who's just come out of the pit lane, and there we go. There we see Oldman round the outside of Mando. What do you think's going to happen here, Justin? Fucking hell, it's so close. And Mandalorian has got the fresh tyre side. He's got Lex sniffing around this rear end, but Mandalorian leaving the room there for Oldman, but he's going to have to try and use that grip, and there we see just how much fresh grip gives you. And yeah, Mandalorian out on a set of soft tyres, and the super soft, and mediums are available in this race, but most of the drivers going for the soft tyre. The medium is just too hard, just not gripping into the surface of the tarmac, and the super soft less than not much more than 1 or 2 seconds as Lex goes for a deep late move there on Oldman, leaves the room on the outside, but god damn, there was a hell of a move there from Lex. Oldman, I believe he wasn't even seeing that coming from another country. Yes, that was a very late move, but also a very, very nicely timed there from Lex. Any later than that, and that could have been an absolute disaster, and it takes 2 to tango there. And yeah, GBM Oldman, and a very, very good dance partner, as we see now Diesel trying to regain his advantage over Steve F1, and Steve F1's teammate there, Rich Blues, just pulling off the racing line as he's getting lapped, unfortunately, but it's good to see him sticking around. He's currently running in 10th place, is Rich Blues, but here we can see Diesel, he's got a really good run here out of turn 1. Can he have a look here towards turn 2? Fucking hell, Steve F1 gone defensive there, but that's going to compromise him through the next few corners. It's really going to put him under pressure. Diesel's going to have a really good line here, and he's taking a lot of curb there, but he's trying to make sure that he gets his car pivoted and in the acceleration zone, getting on that power. And let's not forget, Diesel's got 2 laps more grip than Steve F1, and there you can see Steve F1 so really starting to struggle. The front tyres start sliding across the racetrack, and Steve F1, I think, is going to have to go a little bit defensive here in towards the hairpin. Yes, he does, but can he get it all slowed down? Diesel really applying the pressure now, just the optimum moment. Steve F1 running a little bit under the grass, going defensive into a very fast corner. It's just compromising himself over and over and over. But here we can see Mitch, P3, he's going to be hunting these 2 guys down as Diesel's applying the pressure, and Steve F1's tyres are just starting to go over the cliff. But here we can see Diesel applying the pressure, but it's all about making sure you apply the pressure but do not spin off. But yeah, through the final corner, I'm pretty sure Flavio's heartbeat will be going through the roof right now. And Steve F1, I think he's going to have to head into the pit lane. No, Diesel going for it. I think this is side by side heading over the start-finish line. And down towards turn 1. Steve F1 not giving up. That's what we like to see, Jan. Yep, Steve F1 there fighting for his life and his balls as he runs through turn 1. Diesel really applying the pressure. I do not see how Steve F1 is going to be able to defend this much longer, as Mitch there in P3 is starting to close in 10th by 10th as Diesel cannot find a way through past Steve F1. On board now with Diesel in P2. there is his race leader, Steve F1, if you're slightly blind. But yeah, here we go. Diesel. This is the corner really where I can see Justin, where the front tyres are just absolutely crying, and Mitch, can he try and get himself back into this fight? He just needs to try and hope and pray that the guys up at the front start battling too much, and that's just going to slow them down there. As we can see, AFC Guna in P4 in the Silver Arrow, as Diesel once again all over the back of Steve F1. How's he going to be able to hold on to this, Justin? Fucking hell, it's incredible, man. Diesel just cannot find a way through past Steve F1. Steve F1 just putting his Benetton in all the right places, keeping Diesel behind him, making sure that that yellow car is as wide as it can be. But here we go through the final corner. He's left the door wide open, and this could be an opportunity now, heading onto the start-finish straight. I can't see Steve F1 wanting to stay out. Now Steve F1 heading back into the pit line here. Right, Mr. G, any news on the strategy for the Benettons? Yeah, Flavio's just been telling me that currently he's looking for another stop after this one to get him to the end of the race. Right, and interestingly, as Steve F1 exits the pit lane, yeah, Mitch has gone and pitted and got himself out on the medium tyre. So I don't know if that's just an absolutely awful strategy, but we've been told that the medium tyre is not a tyre really that's very good round here. As there we can see Steve F1 on fresh grip up behind Mandalorian. I don't think that Mandalorian's going to be able to hold on to this one for much longer, Justin. Fucking hell, Steve F1. Can he try around the outside of Mandalorian, which will then become the inside on the very fast left-hander they're coming up to. But now Mandalorian just about hangs on there, but you can see the grip, especially through this corner, heading up towards the hairpin. I think Mandalorian is going to have to go defensive, and he does. But this is going to leave him open to attack. Steve F1 all the way around the outside, almost loses the rear end there. But that could have been an open goal there. Steve F1 almost ran off the circuit, but right now Mandalorian's coming up to a back mark. I think that's Rich Blues in 10th place. So hopefully Mandalorian can find his way through. I'm pretty sure the Benettons, yeah, Rich very smartly there moves out of the way, these two guys, as Steve F1 pressuring the back of Mandalorian, but he needs to find his way through, because this ultimately is his outlap, and if Diesel pits, he wants to be able to do the undercut, but Diesel stayed out on this lap, so he's going to try and overtake Mandalorian down into us turn one, I think, Jam. Yeah, Steve F1 there had an awful outlap being stuck behind Mandalorian, but hopefully he's going to be able to make the move on Mandalorian down towards turn one. Is Mandalorian going to be able to brake and hold on to this? I think Steve F1 will carry the speed, and there you go, there the grip on the acceleration. Just too much for the old Lotus to hold on to that. And Steve F1 now up to P2, Mitch in P4, not very far behind, there he is, hunting these two down, but I'm pretty sure he'll be past Mandalorian like candy from a baby. And yeah, the real one he's fighting is Steve F1, and the real wild card here is how far Diesel's been able to take his tyres. And yeah, but here we go, Mitch all over the back of Mandalorian. Fucking hell, he's so close up behind the Lotus, and yeah, maybe this is maybe a little bit of team orders. Maybe Diesel saying to Mandalorian over the team radio, you know, hold Mitch up, he's a fast guy, so try and hold him up. But I don't think Mitch has got the grip there around the outside. Mandalorian backs out of it because he knew that was going to be an absolute car crash if he'd have carried on in there. But here we go, Diesel heading through the final corner. That's how far ahead he is. If he pits, I still think he's going to be able to come out in front of Steve F1. But here we go, no, carrying on for another lap there, Diesel. He absolutely loves these tyres. Indeed he does, he absolutely loves them, but the last thing we want to see is him run too far off the circuit. But here we go, AFC Guna all over the back of Lex in the second McLaren. And yeah, Lex making that McLaren as wide as possible as AFC Guna up the inside through the final corner. And I think that just shows you that AFC Guna's got a hell of a lot more grip, as Mandalorian in P4 is in the pit lane. But here we go. Yeah, AFC Guna, now he's in front though, and that's just leading himself wide open to attack from Lex in towards turn one as Mandalorian exits the pit lane, so that's almost 3 wide. But yeah, AFC Guna holds onto it there. Fucking hell, Mandalorian on new tyres coming out of the pit line, getting them up to temperature, and they side by side with Lex now heading down towards turn 2. Lex leaving the room on the inside and Mandalorian leaving the room on the outside. Still side by side. Brilliant racing there from Mandalorian and Lex. And yeah, so Lex trying to regain his position on AFC Guna, ends up losing out there as we cut back to the leading 3. Is yeah, Mitch now all over the back of Steve F1. Indeed he is. So yeah, Mitch really applying the pressure. They're both pitted on the same lap, and Mitch has just been able to pull that gap in. So I think Mitch has got rid of the mediums on the previous stint, which is why he was not able to bring himself back into contention. But now he's back on the soft tyres, and that's just definitely showing his true pace now as he's closed in on the back of Steve F1. And yeah, Diesel, is he going to pit? No, Diesel carries on for another lap. He's just absolutely loving this as Steve F1, he's going to have to get defensive now. Flavio will be bricking it as Mitch now is on the racing line heading up towards turn 1. Side by side, under braking into turn 1. And Mitch is going to try it. No, once again, Steve F1 just carries enough speed through turn 1 to say, no, you're not coming through this time. But Mitch, I'm pretty sure he's not going to give up on this one, Justin. Fucking hell, I just don't know how Diesel does it. If these two guys are struggling for grip and they're on fresher tyres, I don't know how Diesel does it. But now Mitch running side by side with Steve F1 through the horseshoes. They're now heading through the very left, the long left-hander. And yeah, you can see Steve F1 probably driving more in his mirrors than looking where he's going. But Mitch, yeah, he's going to go for it now. Up the inside, towards the hairpin, under braking. Mitch in the McLaren goes a bit deep, and Steve F1 comes back. No, Mitch hangs onto it. That was brilliant driving there for Mitch. Absolutely seated the pants stuff, and he's up to P2 now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Flavio and Steve F1 will not be happy with the sight of Mitch blitzing in front of him. So now it's going to come down to the fact is one of these guys going to gamble, go for another pit stop and hope that the guys in front run out of grip, as we see AFC Guna in the Silver Arrow of the Mercedes-Benz team under pressure now from Mandalorian in P5 in the Lotus, all over the back of that number 53 car as the race leader Diesel into the pit lane. Talk about looking after your tyres. Diesel's been running the super softs and he's back out on track. Brilliant. So Steve F1 now all over the back of Mitch as ahead side by side towards turn 1, but yeah, Steve F1 did not make the move, and Diesel's just come out in the pit lane right behind them, as we're seeing now a bit further back AFC Guna under pressure from Mandalorian in P5. He's going onto the racing line. AFC Guna on the inside, and yeah, running through turn 1. AFC Guna runs a bit wide and pushes Mandalorian onto the grass. I'm pretty sure that is going to have Stewart's inquiry written all over it, and I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing from the stewards about that one. But yeah, here we go. Steve F1 all over the back of Mitch, and Diesel on them brand new tyres. Yeah, Diesel's going to be wanting to go at the end. There's only 8 minutes left of this race, and yeah, Mitch and Steve F1. What's going to go on here? What do you think, Justin? All I can say, James, is it's fucking crunch time. This is the time when you make up your mind. What are you going to do on your strategy? Diesel's just pitted. Are you going to be able to get to the end? If you're Steve F1, do you think you're going to be able to get to the end of the race? I've pretty much, I very much doubt it. I've got to say, you'd be praying to God and hoping that you make it to the end of the race. I can see a couple of these drivers coming into the pit line, but Diesel right now is the odds-on favourite. He's brand new tyres, and there you can see he's all over the back of Steve F1, running through the final corner. And yeah, he's going to have to try and oh my God, there Diesel taking a lot of curb, and Steve F1 straight into the pit line. And yeah, oh my God, we've got AFC Guna running off track in coming the penultimate corner, and that's a disaster for the Silver Arrows. He's going to be devastated there. But yeah, what do you think there, Jack? Well, I just think there that Steve F1's put himself way out of contention for the lead of the race, and all he's going to be hoping for is to try and get himself into P2 and hope that Mitch runs out of grip, as we've seen AFC Guna back in the pit lane. But yeah, I think that Mitch, it's going to be touch and go whether Mitch can get to the end of the race, as we're now looking at Mitch's teammate Lex, and there is Oldman in the Ferrari. AFC Guna just exiting the pit lane, just next to Rich Blues in the second Benetton. But yeah, right now, if I were Mitch, I'd be thinking to myself, Diesel's on brand new fresh tyres. He's right up behind me. I doubt I'm going to be able to get to the end of the race. It would be an absolute mammoth effort to keep Diesel behind. I'm thinking if I were Mitch, I'd be tempted to get into the pit lane and stick on a new set of Supersofts, but the potential of the win then is completely up in smoke, and you're relying on Diesel making a mistake in order to win. And right now, but this is just imagining 7 minutes time, Mitch will not have any grip whatsoever. So I think Mitch is pretty much got to get himself into the pit lane to cover off Steve F1, who will be catching these two rapidly as fast as Diesel is catching. But oh yeah, here we go, Diesel going for the move already, so that's kind of covered off the pit lane. So if Mitch wanted to go for the pit lane, he could not do it because Diesel was already on his left hand side at the entry to the pit lane there, Justin. Fucking hell, can't believe it, man. I really do think that Mitch there needed to get himself into the pit line, and we're going to try and cover off Steve F1 because they're on there. I think if Mitch pits, I think he's going to find himself probably around 3rd, 4th place as the guys are coming out. There you can see Mandalorian coming out in front of Lex in number 9 McLaren. And yeah, I think I'll be very, very tempted to get myself in the pit lane, but I think maybe Mitch has left it a lap too long there, and maybe worth backing off at the throttle to get himself into the pit lane as Diesel leads the race now. I've got to say, Diesel, clear as day, I think he's going to win this. I think that Steve F1's going to be absolutely crying now that God knows what Flavio is going to be doing to his balls later. I really don't want to know. But yeah, Steve F1 now is, I think he could be potentially in the best pound seat for a P2 finish. But Mitch, I don't think, even if he stayed out, I don't think that he's going to be able to hold off Steve F1, who is catching him at a rate of knots there. Previous lap time was a 1:34.2. And yeah, we're looking right now at 1:49s from Mitch, and Mitch is into the pit lane. Oh my God, guys, that was a very, very last minute decision there from Mitch coming into the pit lane. I thought he was going to clobber the curb on the way in and crash, but luckily he managed to have enough grip to get it in there. But that's put him out in P3, guys. Thanks again, Mr. G, as there we can see him running through turn 1. Mitch, brand new tyres, only about 4 seconds behind Steve F1, but maybe that's just a touch too far away, as we're running now at 36 minutes and it's a 40 minute race. So yeah, that's really going to be, he's going to have to pull at least 1 second per minute at the end of this. So there we can see AFC Guna currently running in P7. GBM Oldman in the Ferrari has managed to get himself up to P6, and Lex in the second McLaren is running in P5 right now. So yeah, AFC Guna was looking so good for him in the opening stages. Qualified on pole and absolutely blitzed it when a few other drivers made a few mistakes, but this guy, Diesel, number 71 Lotus, has just not made many mistakes throughout this race, if any. And yeah, he's just got an absolutely monstrous lead, as we can now see. Steve F1 pitted about 4 laps ago. Mitch pitted on the previous lap, and yeah, that gap's just it's just not seeming to come down enough really for Mitch, as we're now just 3 minutes away from the end of the race. So we're probably looking at another 3 laps. Yeah, I think it might even be 2, to be fair, as we're now on board with GBM Oldman all over the back of Lex on the back of the McLaren. So the Ferraris striking back against the McLarens here. What do you think's going to happen here, Justin? Fucking hell, it's all over the back of him. I think Oldman's definitely going to have this one in the bag. He'd be kicking himself if he doesn't get past Lex out of the final corner there. Lex, is he going for the pit lane? I think, oh, Lex going for the pit lane. That's a very light call, you know. Only 2 minutes left of the race. That's a crazy move. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Ron Dennis, I can see him out of the commentary box window, absolutely farming, saying, why Lex, why are you coming in the pit lane? There's only a minute left, you crazy crackpot. But yeah, right now we need to focus on this battle. The gap is starting, just about starting to come down. We've got a back marker between them. I think there's Dave the Hop in the second Ferrari. And yeah, so Mitch can see Steve F1 there in the distance in the yellow Benetton. But yeah, I don't think he's got enough time to catch him. I think there's only going to be one more lap after this one if he's going to try it, but he's going to have to absolutely pull something out of the bag here to jam. Oh, sorry, Dave the Hub there almost pulling off the circuit to try and let Mitch through, try not to get in the way of this battle, and that's good to see there from Dave the Hub, but his tyres are going to be absolutely filthy now. But there we go, Steve F1 heading round the final corner to start his last lap of the race. We're at 38.50, 39. But there we go, yeah. So here we go, Steve F1. Can he hold on to P2? Mitch in the slipstream, James. Yeah, he's all over the back of him. Steve F1 goes defensive. Mitch, can he carry the speed round the outside? He'd be a brave man. Steve F1 once again carries the speed through, but he's going to have to go defensive towards turn 2, which will compromise him. Mitch moving this way and that, trying to get him out of position, but he's trying to really put Steve F1 off in the mirrors, trying to make him think about what's going on behind him rather than controlling his vehicle. And there we can go through the horseshoe. Steve F1 just about got the grip, but no, he's left the door wide open. Mitch forces his way through there, but that was very much fair. That was brilliant driving there from Mitch, and he's managed to get himself back up into P2 out of absolutely nowhere. Fucking hell, he just passed his way through. But you got to say, when you're on the last lap, you got to find your muscles and push your way, and he definitely did that. As we're looking a bit further back at AFC Guna, having a little look at GBM Alman, but there's the race leader. He's pretty much minced the field today. He's shown what he's made of. He's one of the kind. He's called Diesel, and he drives a Lotus. His car's number 71, and this is the first race of retro racing going Diesel's way. And yeah, what a way to start the season there for Diesel, heading through the final corner. Please don't bid it. And here he goes over the line, Jack. What a win there for Diesel. 71 taking the first race of retro racing, and Mitch on the final lap snatching P2 to come over the line for his first race as well, along with every other driver. P2 there for Mitch, P3 for Steve F1. Mandalorian a few seconds back, coming away with P4, running through the final corner. And then there's a fight going on for P5, and this is GBM Altman and AFC Guna. AFC Guna, can he try and slipstream him over the line? This is going to be very, very close. AFC Guna just misses out there to GBM Altman, very close over the line, and Lex rounds out the finishing lap and P7. So there we go then, what an absolutely cracking race to start the championship off. Here are the race results. Diesel takes P1, Mitch P2, Steve F1 takes P3, Mandalorian P4, GBM Allman P5, AFC Guna P6, Lex P7, P8 Gary, P9 Dave Verharp, and P10 Rich Blues. So yeah, after round 1 we'll have a little look after them penalties have been applied for AFC Guna. Unfortunately he got a -3 point penalty, so that puts him on the same points as Dave Verharp. And yeah, Diesel with 10 points leading the championship right now. So next week, hopefully we're going to be seeing some more drivers putting up a fight for Diesel, Mitch and Steve F1, because that is an absolutely cracking opening for this championship. And so join us next week for the Autodromo Lago Maggiore East Race 2. And yeah, that is promising to be an absolute cracker. So thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you all again next week. Goodbye.